Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Random Chatter. This episode's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. We're going to change things up a little bit. We are actually going to be releasing shows more frequently, but we're going to break them down throughout the week and bring you shorter shows for the sake of YouTube, but also for you audio podcast listeners who are maybe driving in the car and you don't have an hour and a half long commute. I really hope you don't have an hour and a half long commute, but we are going to be bringing you shorter episodes more frequently, change the format up a little bit. We're going to do the same content. We're just going to break it up into different segments. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the news for this week. These are the top 3 topics from this week. And the first one is apparently Netflix is trying to crack down on account sharing. I don't know. Did you guys hear about this?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're running some tests where for some users, they're rolling out something where if you're watching it on your television, now this is not mobile, it's not iPads. I don't think it's on your PCs either. It's just for like Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android televisions, things like that.
Does it also affect if you're like using it through like Xfinity?
It may also affect that. My understanding is it's for the set-top box apps.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it asks you to authenticate with a code either through email or text message. And if you cannot, then it tells you if you don't live with the owner of this account, you need your own account to keep watching. Now, don't panic. It's just a test. And there's
It's only a test.
And it's only a test.
Had this been an actual emergency?
You know what? Like nobody's going to know that reference anymore.
I know.
Oh my gosh. What do people do now if there's an emergency and they're streaming something? Because their stream's just going to cut out. And then what are they going to do? Wow. I never even thought about that. Anyway, again, kids, go ask your parents. So there's a verify later button. So there's basically temporarily there's an ignore button you can click and just get past it. But this is something that maybe they're actually going to implement. A lot of people, like it's just common knowledge, people share their Netflix logins.
Yeah.
They just do. Like you can even, you pay more in Netflix to have more simultaneous streams available.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, I think, I don't know, for families, I think it's fine. I think it kind of makes sense. It's, you know, if you're going to share it with, you know, 1 or 2 others, I think that's fine. You know, obviously it's like they can't police who you're giving it to. They certainly can limit how many you have. And I think that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I get obviously, you know, it's like they don't want a theft of service thing. And of course, you know,
Right.
There used to be that big thing with cable, you know, and now like cable encoding like totally prevents any of that stuff from happening. But
Right.
you know,
But you couldn't just give your
the
password to somebody else for cable and have them get your cable.
Yeah. You needed like hardware splitters and you had to be within a certain proximity.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
This is
they can
like
track
if
your
people
IP
had,
addresses
like,
and they can tell, hey, one person's logging in from West Virginia and then another person on the same account is logging in from Connecticut. And the device type they're using, they can tell. It's not like Eric is on a trip to Connecticut and he's logging in with his iPhone.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess I don't have a problem with it. Like if it's immediate family members, like I don't share an account with my dad, for example, but I mean, I'm paying for HD and that includes 4 streams and I'm only one person. So, you know, there's that too. But like, let's say my son. So my son lives with my ex and let's say she didn't subscribe to Netflix. Honestly, I don't know whether she does or not. I kind of feel like I should be able to share the account I'm paying for with 4 streams with my 11-year-old son. It's not like he can go get a job. I don't know what your labor laws are like up there, Lou, but my understanding is he can't get, because if he can work, I mean, come on, kid.
Yeah.
Really?
But you know, and the thing of it is though, there's so many free accounts out there that you get this for free, right? I mean, I'm not paying for Netflix because I
Oh,
have it through Xfinity, I believe.
And then
Right.
isn't there one of the
Wasn't
cellular
didn't-
providers too?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody else offers it, or you could get it through. You did a year worth of something else. You get Netflix free for a year. So they give away so many for free. It's like now they're trying to like crack down on this. I'm like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, I see your point, but
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, my parents. I mean, we have two different houses technically. I mean, I'm in their backyard basically.
Yeah, I mean, you're almost on the same
we're
property.
on the same piece of property.
Yeah.
Right. And they have their own account. I don't share my account with them, although I would think I probably could, and it wouldn't be against the terms of service because it's my parents. We're on the same piece of property. Yeah,
I mean, you could literally walk into their house and sit down on their couch and watch it, and they're not going to, well, they might care, but like they're not going to care because it's, yeah, I kind of feel like a little bit like if it's immediate family, parents, children, maybe even grandparents, I don't know, and you're paying for multiple streams, like they specifically have tiered packages with multiple streams, then does it matter if my son resides with me and is using one of those 4 streams or resides somewhere else and is using one of those 4 streams? He's still my son that I'm supporting. Or even, my mom, for example, I get it. And listen, I completely support not like, I'm not going to share my account with Tim. I
wouldn't either. I mean, wow. Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, thanks. I will with Lou, but I'm not going to share my account.
Okay. But
it's different when it's,
so, I mean, and it's their terms of service and they can set whatever they want to set for a term of service. But if I'm paying for 4 streams and I say, okay, I got, I want to have a stream and my wife's in the other room watching a stream or on her cell phone watching a stream, and I want to give it to you. You're paying for one of my streams, and that's fine, I would think. But hear me out for a second before you go. Now, so say I gave, it was me, my wife, you, and Tim, and I had one other person, and all 4 streams are being used, and I went to log on. It would tell me, no, Lou, you can't log on.
Right. I'm
still paying for 4 streams. I should be able to stream 4 things at once.
You can't cheat your way into a 5th.
Right. Yeah. So what do they care if it's a family member or not, or living with me or not? I'm paying for 4 streams. I should get 4 streams
because it's still loss. It's a loss of another customer. I mean, you're paying for up to 4 streams.
I guess. Well, then the next time I watch Netflix, I'm going to have my TV playing one show, my iPhone playing something else, my iPad playing something else, and my wife will be in the bedroom watching something else. Just to do it.
That's not how a denial of service attack works, Lou. you would need many more.
Out of it.
Yeah. So I mean, this isn't a problem. This is fine. This is ethical for them to do. It's annoying for everybody else, but it's ethical. Like they have the right to do this, plain and simple.
Yeah.
All right. This next one, I'm so not a fan of the Space Jam movie. So,
neither am I.
The upcoming Space Jam movie, I don't care about. I don't expect it's going to be any good, but this is an interesting story. You guys are familiar with Pepé Le Pew, the skunk?
Yes. Yep.
So for longer than Tim or I have been alive, Pepé Le Pew, I didn't even mention you, Lou.
I know you didn't.
I didn't even mention you. You can't complain about me calling you old then when I didn't.
Whatever, keep going.
So Pepé Le Pew, there's a cat, a black cat named Penelope, who always accidentally walks under a white can of paint or something, and it paints a stripe down her back and tail. And Pepé Le Pew mistakes her for a skunk and goes and starts literally pawing all over her and physically restraining her and smothering her with kisses while she is desperately physically fighting him off to get away. And like now I get the argument that what was acceptable 30, 40, 50 years ago is different from what's acceptable today. And we can't just, undo all media prior to 10 years ago. Like I get all of those arguments, but
trying to.
Let's face it. This is of the widely acceptable mainstream cartoon characters. Arguably, he is one of the most disturbing by today's standards, right? I mean, there's the entire cartoon is nothing but sexual harassment, like from start to finish. Every single time he's on screen.
And I get that, but even as a kid watching it, though, it was comical. I mean, I don't think. I mean, everybody says now it's promoting rape culture, and I get that.
It is,
and I get the argument. It is.
It was funny because he didn't get what he was doing wrong, and so it was that whole buffoon sort of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That was funny. The problem is, like, now we get that that's like. I don't know. I think by today's standards, it is a little bit too far. I wouldn't want my son watching that and normalizing it and becoming comfortable with the fact that that's just comedic. Because that was the way men pursued women, and like it's exaggerated and over the top, but like that
it was exaggerated over the top. I don't think that's the way men pursued women.
The approach, the mentality was, hey, she keeps fighting me off. I just have to keep being persistent.
But the funny thing is the comedy of it was not the fact that he was forcing himself on a
no, that wasn't the comedy.
That didn't want it.
You're right.
The funny part of it was the fact that it wasn't a skunk he was after. It was a cat. And the cat was like, dude, no, you're a skunk.
Well, I always saw it as also like he thinks he's all suave and a ladies' man, but he's obviously failing over and over and over again. He doesn't get the fact that he's failing. So here's the story. Okay. The upcoming Space Jam film, he's not going to appear in it. So there was one director, they had filmed the scene. The new director came in, the director cut the scene. Here's the scene. Okay. And this is from Deadline. So I'm going to read this from Deadline word for word. Pepe was set to appear in a black and white Casablanca-like Rick's Cafe sequence. Pepe, being a bartender, starts hitting on a woman in the bar, played by, and I'm not sure how to pronounce her first name, but I think it's Gracie Santo. He begins kissing her arm, which he pulls back, then slamming Pepe into the chair next to hers. She then pours her drink on Pepe, slaps him hard, sends him spinning in a stool, which is then stopped by LeBron James's hand. James and Bugs Bunny are looking for Lola, and Pepe knows her whereabouts. Pepe then tells the guys that Penelope Cat has filed a restraining order against him. James makes a remark in the script that Pepe can't grab other tunes without their consent. So, Michael D. Lee is the new director. He took over. And he felt like, and there was also, I think it was a New York Times article just recently. He cut the scene before this article came out, but there was an article talking about how outrageously inappropriate this character is. I mean, just relentlessly pursuing romantic affection to the extent that he physically restrains her and forces kisses on her while she's trying to escape. Penelope never speaks. So there's a strong metaphor about the fact that like she doesn't have a voice, and maybe that's like stretching the metaphor a little bit. And I don't know that that was ever an intentional metaphor, but if you don't let her speak, then the resistance becomes physical slapstick, which makes the cartoon, quote, safer back then. So like it still kind of feeds into that whole perspective on things. The actress in the scene is upset that it's being cut. Her argument is that, and I'm going to read, this is from her spokesperson, again, via Deadline. This was such a big deal for Gracie to be in this movie. Even though Pepe is a cartoon character, if anyone was going to slap a sexual harasser like him, Gracie wished it would be her. Now the scene is cut, and she doesn't have that power to influence the world through younger generations who'll be watching Space Jam 2 to let younger girls and younger boys know that Pepe's behavior is unacceptable. So, here's my question for you guys. Lou, I get what you're saying. You and I grew up with those. Tim, you did as well. And like, as a kid, I looked at it very differently than we would today.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. But you also, you have to admit that like we're living today, and by today's standards, that stuff is like, I mean, he was really exaggerating something that is like completely unacceptable. It's sexual assault. Like plain as it is a nonstop sexual assault cartoon. So what's the right call here? Is the right call to cut the scene entirely and let Pepe's existence be in the past and just stop using the character? And keep in mind, again, this is a one-trick pony character. This is the only aspect of this character's identity. It's not like he also has a bunch of other things he does. No, this is the entirety of this character shtick. So is the right call to just, let him be in the archives, or is the right call to bring it to the forefront and have somebody slap him down, literally and metaphorically? Tim, what's your take on this? What do you think?
Well, so I mean, first of all, I think it's important to go back to the impression that the character had created over time. At no point as a kid did I ever think that it was okay to treat a woman like that. I understood what cartoons were. I understood that they were exaggerations of things, that they were characterizations of things. Like Lou said, I mean, even as a kid, I understood the irony of, it was a cat and not a skunk, and not obviously that makes it right, but that, it was Pepé Le Pew acting under this false impression of things. In terms of the movie, I mean, to an extent, the scene that you had described that they had apparently cut actually does, I mean, it kind of, to an extent, goes to explain why those types of actions are wrong, which I think is appropriate. So, I mean, if they want to go for the teaching moment, then that's what they do. There's probably some better ways for them to do that, but then the other side is, well, okay, so they're just going to, fundamentally discontinue the character. And yeah, like you said, Eric, I agree. Very, very one-dimensional character. That's all Pepé Le Pew ever did. I mean, if they said, oh, well, we're going to have Bugs Bunny stop saying or doing this one certain thing. Okay, whatever, that's fine. There's still a whole lot more to Bugs Bunny.
Right.
But for Pepé Le Pew, yeah, okay. I can understand, I guess, why they want to discontinue that. But again, like I said, it's if kids are getting the impression from a cartoon that this is okay behavior, then the parents suck. I mean, that's just simply bad parenting. I mean, pay attention to what your kids are watching and have discussions with your kids about it if you feel you need to.
Okay. So I'll say this though.
But I do also understand that, as times change, we should become smarter about things. And I guess I'm fine that if going forward, they're going to say, all right, you know what? We're not going to use this character because that's all this character is about. So that's fine, whatever. I do hope that they don't go into this whole, like, we're going to delete all this old footage of, these Pepé Le Pew shorts because it's, it's offensive, et cetera. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I would rather just see a warning about, I don't want to pretend history didn't happen. And if there was something that bad happened in history, then let's address it, but let's not erase it. Like maybe erase the mentality and change moving forward, but like the actual history itself happened. So let's not pretend it didn't. If there needs to be a discussion about it, let's discuss it. And to your point, Tim, I agree. I think that parents should probably have a talk with their kids about this sort of thing. And if you're not, you probably should be. I don't think, like we were saying, Lou, I don't think like I didn't grow up thinking that kind of behavior was acceptable, but I did grow up thinking that kind of behavior was funny. And then as an adult, now I've known enough people who were victims of that sort of thing happening, not as cartoony, obviously, but that sort of thing happening in real life. There's nothing at all funny about it. And it happens like when you're talking about a third of all women and girls end up experiencing some sort of sexual assault. And I'm not even sure exactly what the numbers are. I think they've gone up. Like, it's not funny anymore.
Right, right. And but
I agree.
I still stand by my saying of that. I didn't think his actions were funny. They were funny based on the misconception of what he thought he was after. It was the whole species thing. It's like, here's a cat the cat's like, oh my God, it's a skunk. And it's like, no, I don't want to be with the skunk. And and that's what the whole twist was. And I think that they're missing an opportunity if they cut this scene to not kind of correct the past history of the character by saying, I got a restraining order now against me because I was doing this wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that would have been a great way to put this in there. I'm not saying put Pepé Le Pew in the movie doing the same things he did years ago, which we know was wrong. But having that whole thing about a restraining order, I think is absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. And I learned my lesson type thing, you know. But
And to your point, I think for me, what was funny about it, like I said, was just the level of incompetence that he also had. Like he just didn't get that she wasn't into him, and that is funny. Even if his actions and behavior wasn't. So as a kid, that was my perspective on it. But so I agree. I think, I mean, it sounds like we're all kind of in agreement that scene is meaningful and maybe even beneficial. I guess my take would be leave the scene in there, refer to the restraining order, show him getting smacked down. And then maybe after that, we don't see him anymore in new content. Like maybe that is the bookend for Pepé Le Pew. And it's certainly, in my personal opinion, the correct bookend to have. But if we don't include that scene, then we are not doing the thing about having the discussions.
It's kind of like we've talked about other characters before about how we need an ending to that character. We don't just want to never see him again, because now we're like, well, what happened?
And we need closure.
This could be the ending. You're right, because he's a one-trick pony. We don't need to see that behavior anymore because it's not applicable to today's standards. So end it. Give him the out, and then we say, bye-bye.
Yeah.
So
I'd agree. All right, moving on. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The one other thing I was going to say, I mean, and back to the thing that Tim brought up about not getting rid of the old content and not trying to just, delete all this old stuff. There are so many characters from that era that we could say that about, from whether it's sexual harassment stuff or other things. I mean, I'm thinking, like Mr. Roper from Three's Company show. And these are all characters that took the whole sexual attraction thing to a different level that was, whether it was acceptable or not back in the time, it was definitely acceptable because it was on TV. But we knew it was wrong, and we knew it was not, what you wanted to happen, but we made fun of it. Mm-hmm. And I think we used the comedy as a coping mechanism, I guess you'd say. But, could you do a character today of like Mr. Roper? No. Right. And my wife brought up the thing this morning about, okay, well, then what about like James Bond? I mean, he was a womanizer, and his character has evolved over the years and done things differently.
But he without question objectified women.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
And still does. I mean, while they've made it in a different way, I mean, he absolutely still does.
Okay.
Yep. But to an extent, it's changed.
Yeah.
But So that's all I want to say.
Let's have the discussion. And I'm all in favor of HBO Max, Disney Plus putting like the messages in front of the content, saying, listen, this is not appropriate by today's cultural standards, but in order to promote discussions about it, we're preserving it in its original format. And we can't just pretend it never happened. We need to deal with it. And
if you don't learn from your mistakes in the past, you're doing to repeat them.
Exactly. Right? Exactly that. All right. The final story this week, HBO Max is apparently going to be offering an ad-supported tier coming in June. Now, in June, they're also going to be rolling out to a number of other countries. So June's going to be kind of a big month for HBO Max. This is going to be at some lower price point. They haven't announced yet what the price point is going to be. But right now, HBO Max is $15 a month, which makes it the most expensive streaming network. Now, yes, Netflix has a higher tier that is more expensive, but the entry level to HBO Max is $15 a month. Yeah. So it makes it the most expensive streaming service to be able to get access to. Now, the thing about this ad-supported tier it is not going to support the same day releases for the theaters and streaming service at home. So I don't know. I guess depending on what the price ends up being and whether you're even interested in any of the Warner Brothers films coming out in a particular year, it might be more economic to go with the ad-supported tier and just see the 1 or 2 films you want to see in the theaters once theaters open back up again. Or, pick it up on iTunes or whatever. But I don't know. Would you guys consider either subscribing to it if you're not already subscribed, or changing your $15 a month subscription down to an ad-supported tier? And then if you would consider that, what is the price point that you think would be fair for that? It's a tough one, isn't it?
It's a tough decision because, I mean, for me personally, so HBO was always part of my cable subscription, right? And you always added it on, and it was $10 a month for years, and it went to $15, I don't know, several years ago. And then when HBO Max came out, it was like, it's a no-brainer. I can do $15 a month through Xfinity, through my cable company, and have it as part of my cable package, or I can dump that, get it as HBO Max streaming, and have access to all this other stuff for the same $15 a month. I'm like, I'll do that. I really enjoy streaming services that don't show me ads. So for me to downgrade to another service and watch ads, I don't know. I mean, we all watch ads on TV, but I mean, most of the stuff I watch on television today is time shifted. So I'm using my DVR and I'm just fast forwarding through the ads anyways. In fact, Xfinity has the automatic fast forward thing on a lot of their shows now, where I just hit fast forward and it goes to the end of the commercial and stops and goes back to the content. So it's easy that way. But for me to want to subscribe to a service and see ads and pay for it, I don't know. I have a hard time with that.
To me, like recently, some of the stuff I've watched on HBO Max and Apple TV Plus, it shows me a pre-roll ad anyway for other content on that streaming network, which I'm paying for. I'm still getting an ad. I guess for
Apple TV does that. Yeah.
And HBO Max does too. Not for everything, but occasionally. Yeah. So,
because like I've been watching a lot of B5, and all those have just been playing. I'll be working in the shop and I'll have it just play continuously. I'll watch 4 episodes in a row while I'm doing stuff in the shop.
But some of the networks now are starting to put ads for the other shows on the network in front. So I guess my thing is, if it's a pre-roll ad, especially if it's for a movie, I don't mind it that much. I'll sit there and watch 30 seconds of ads at the beginning. I don't want ads interrupting me every 10 minutes. So I guess there's the question of how are the ads being handled as well. I don't want it to be like Hulu. And I don't want anywhere from a minute and a half to 3 minutes worth of ads like I have on some of the network apps. Like, I don't know that they do that. I'm just going to randomly say something, but like AMC, Discovery, Comedy Central, whatever they are, like the television show or television channel apps. Some of those do like really, really long ads. Peacock did that for a while, where I'd see the same ad 3 or 4 times in one commercial break. I don't want that, but a pre-roll I'm okay with. Tim, what do you think about this?
I mean, it really all depends on what you want out of it. I mean, fundamentally, if you kind of want really what Lou was talking about, if you want like the basic OG HBO for a lower price and are willing to tolerate the ads, then this is the way to go.
Yeah.
If you want the day and day releases, and you want to avoid the ads, then you stick with what the current plan is. I actually, all in all, I'm okay with services offering some different tiers, because I think it makes the stuff more affordable and accessible to a lot of people. I mean, we've talked a lot about the cost of streaming services that might not individually be a big deal, but once you start to, well, hey, I have Netflix, then I have HBO Max, and I have Hulu, and I have Disney Plus, and it starts to pile on, after a little while. So, if people are looking to save a few bucks here and there, or really even if they're just kind of looking across the whole catalog of streaming services and they want to say, okay, hey, look, we can afford to pay $20 a month, $25 a month. Let's get whatever we can for that amount. This might be the big difference for HBO to be able to squeeze in on that.
True.
Versus not at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with it. I think it's fine. And quite honestly, with the digital format, it seems fundamentally a pretty easy algorithm to even separate that out even more. To say, okay, your lowest tier is going to be no day and day releases with ads, or you can have the day and day releases with ads, or you're going to have, all the new stuff with no ads. Really, I mean, they could separate that stuff out pretty, to a finite degree. And, it costs at that point, then, $1 or $2 less or $1 or $2 more.
Yeah.
I think that they can actually take care of customers better by offering these options.
I would agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think that, while my preference might be to have the full boat $15 a month thing, because that's the way I'm used to watching it. And I like watching things without ads. If it was just pre-roll ads for other shows coming up, that's like a trailer in a movie. I'm okay with that. I'd go for that. But I think it's great that they could do something that, say Tim would like that I wouldn't like, but they're okay with that and you're okay with that. So it's kind of to each his own.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. That's the top 3 topics for this week. And I don't know. We would like to hear what you think about these, because a lot of these, we have our own opinions, but ultimately, especially with this last one, it comes down to what you think. And we would like to know, are you going to move over to the ad-supported version if you have HBO Max now? Or if you don't, would that make you want to subscribe to HBO Max? We would like to hear from you and know what you think about that, as well as the other 2 topics. So head over to randomchatter.com. That's where you'll find all of our audio podcasts. That's where you can join our Discord server, help support the network through Patreon. And if you'd like to watch these on YouTube, go to randomchatter.com/YouTube. Hit that subscribe and like button. And we are going to continue to bring you content here now multiple times a week, once again, with the new format. So on that note, we are going to take off and record some more shows, and we will see you again very soon. Until then.